video was written during the 1.7 patch of the game, and I want to talk about the state of every weapon in the game. Hopefully the creator of the game watches this and takes it into consideration, maybe have some positive feedback. And I'm not just gonna sit here and tell you that the Kriss Vector is overpowered in close range. Yeah, like I think I knows that. I'm gonna bring in a lot of technical feedback. I'll make it fun to listen to and easy to understand. But out of it, let's talk about the Kriss Vector. The script of this video started a month ago, and it was before I played Polygon Competitive League, or PCO for sure. My opinion has changed a lot over the Vector's stats and how it could possibly be balanced. Well, I'll be tempting to balance all the weapons in this video myself for the fun of it. At one point I thought it was balanced, then overpowered, then balanced again. The reason why is because I believe a game should be balanced around the highest level of play, meaning the competitive side of the game is fair and balanced before even considering the casual side. As for example, Counter-Strike and Apex Legends both do this. But in Counter-Strike and Apex Legends, there is a key difference. Because in both of those games, the pros play the exact same game as the casual players, or the rest of the player base. And this is a problem because Polygon does not do that. The highest level of play is only King of the Hill, which is a problem, because all the rest of the player base is mostly Conquest. And the King of the Hill maps and the Conquest maps have a difference in size. So close range weapons are obviously going to be better, which is a problem when you're trying to balance a game. And for the Kriss Vector, it has the highest movement stat in fire rate, but sucks at long range. So you see how this weapon would be very good in close range maps and bad in Conquest. So that is a problem. See, to fix a problem, that is, this gun needs to be less accurate at mid-range and only good at close range, there are only two options. You either pull a shotgun and erase all the shots damage after a certain distance, or you pull a shotgun and you make it so that the bullets have massive spread. This gun needs to be less accurate at mid-range and only good at close range. It's a shotgun problem, you see? So we cannot do that. You cannot erase the bullet's damage, you cannot damage drop-off, which is something that this game already does, but it does it for rifles, not for SMGs, because there's not enough range. The drop-off even matters, because you would be shooting a guy 50 meters away. And you can even physically add spread, which is the second option, because the Kriss Vector in real life has something called the Super V recoil mitigation system, or anti-recoil and spread. So there's not a real way to balance the weapon, not accuracy wise, not movement wise, and range isn't really an option, so there's nothing we can really do there. The G36C. The G36C is a weird weapon. It's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You can't use it as effectively as a Vector because of the fire rate and slight movement penalty, but it's good at range. Not great. I've heard a lot of pros complain about the weapon, saying that it's actually a rifle called yada yada yada, whatever, who cares, and that it needs to be changed, and that everyone who uses it is predictable and have the same playstyle every time. But looking at it from a technical perspective, the weapon is indeed exactly what you would call balanced, since it doesn't excel in any territory. It doesn't actually make anyone ever go, oh my god, I hate the G36, it's overpowered. It isn't. And essentially with the fact that through the attachment system, you can go in certain directions more than another, I have to try to replicate the Vector as much as I can, since I'm leaning towards the movement style, since in PCO, you have to ban a weapon before you start the match, so everyone automatically bans the Vector, obvious, and he then uses the G36. And then as the only other SMG in the game, me personally, I try to add the attachments that make it the most movement and the best weapon at close range. The only way I see to resolve an issue like this is to introduce more SMGs into the game, since that way you can resolve the issue of everyone picking one weapon, because the SMG department, which is the best in close range maps, only has two weapons and one automatic always got banned. Which is also why I think they should leave the long range to the rifles and make the G36 an actual SMG. The submachine gun was developed during World War I as a close quarter offensive weapon, mainly for trench fighting. So if we're trying to make it so that this is an SMG weapon, then don't make it a jack of all trades, because it doesn't ever need to lean into the long range category at all. I mean, don't make it a Kriss Vector, but put your own spin into it. If there's only going to be two SMGs, which I wouldn't like, I would love some more guns, you can, for example, change how it works. For example, decrease the range and increase the damage. Go the opposite way of the Vector. Instead of having very fast speed and very fast fire rate for low damage, go the opposite way. What if you have speed, but then damage and low fire rate? I think this would be interesting, and I think this would actually make it to a contender to where you don't automatically have to ban the Vector every time and use the G36, which is the closest to the Vector. You can have two different sides, people have more playstyles, and people don't have to ban the Vector all the time. That's just my personal opinion. And speaking of rifles, which is the section I'll be speedrunning through, since there isn't much to talk about, let's start with the M16A4, because I'll be using this weapon as a baseline for every other weapon, since this gun was intentionally designed to be the starter weapon, so that any new player can get used to it, because it's reliable. So it has a lot of decent fire rate and a good range. Very few weapons will be needing change, with this being no exception. There isn't a lot to talk about this weapon, apart from doesn't lean into no direction in particular. Unlike every other rifle, which has a little bit of spice to it, you can say. Like the AK-47, which strikes a tiny bit from the M16, doing 6 more damage in exchange for fire rate, recoil, and accuracy. Which is fine, not good in the department that it doesn't even lean into the damage department too much to warrant any other penalty like the AK-308 and the SCAR do. No changes I can make to this weapon, only small though that I see people use it when they want to lean into that damage department but don't really want to take the SCAR and the AK-308's penalties. Anyways, moving on to my favorite weapon in Conquest, the AK-74M. My go-to for long-range combat, as it has a lot of good attributes that makes it feel kind of like a sniper, but also having a big magazine size and a capable mid-range and close quarters too. But it doesn't exactly excel there. See, the thing is that it leans more towards the long-range capabilities rather than the short-range capabilities, which will be important later. My go-to for casuals, where, you know, Conquest is obviously a big map, so you need more long-range than you do short-range. But not that great in PCL, since PCL was mid to close range. That's all that matters there. So instead of the AK-74M, people usually pick the AK-12 if they want to play a rifle. The AK-12 is just the opposite of the AK-74M, where it doesn't lean into the long range department as much as the mid to close range. It has great hip fire accuracy and mobility, but doesn't excel at long range. Great mobility, so you see how it's the exact opposite of the AK-74M. If you like rifles and you play AK-74M for its long range attributes, then you're probably going to play the AK-12 in mid to close maps. It just makes sense. No changes there, obviously. Perfectly balanced weapon in my opinion for now. So far there has been no changes whatsoever, so let's jump into a weapon that does, in my opinion, need a change. The AK-308. This is a weapon I most dislike from the rifle class, because if you look at it, it gives off the vibe that it's just a smaller AK. You expect mobility, but it actually has one of the worst mobilities in the game. I don't know why. It also then has a small magazine size and less attributes than the other AKs for 2 more damage than the AK-47. That to me does not sit well. It's not worth the trade-off in my opinion. This weapon definitely needs an entire overhaul. You can't just balance it. I mean, maybe bump up the other stats a bit, because the 2 damage, it's not noticeable. You still have to 4-shot most of the time, so it doesn't actually make sense. I mean, to completely rework it, I guess. I don't even know what to say. We already have a weapon that deals high damage, and it's the SCAR, which just takes it further. The same concept as the 308, and has just a little bit slightly worse attributes for more damage. It doesn't make sense why you would ever use the 308. Oh yeah, and the SCAR. So it does lean the heaviest into the low stats, high damage gig, making it, I mean, I feel like it's a playstyle choice whenever you want to engage in good attributes, low damage, and low attributes, high damage. But to me, the M16's damage and speed have the same time to kill as the damage and the speed of the SCAR. So I personally wouldn't choose worse attributes for a little bit more damage. And especially when the bundle on top of that, the reload time of the SCAR, I mean personally, I wouldn't ever choose the 308 in the SCAR ever, because for me they're not that good of a weapon. But the SCAR, I can see a deal where some people would like to use it for the 3-shot capability. Okay, so the snipers. Here is where I'm about to go on a rant again. The M24 is a problem. Not a problem with the game. No, the weapon is fine, it works, it does its job fine. The problem is in every game. This is a sniper rifle. This is your typical sniper rifle. But sniper rifles are actually nightmare for devs to balance. It's about action rifles, so it fires one big ass bullet, and it takes a long time before you can fire your next bullet. So it's one shot, but it's too overpowered if it one shots. So then you fire one shot, and if you're able to kill in one shot, then that's too overpowered. especially if you have speed, then you just make Call of Duty. When you can walk into a room and fire one bullet and win your firefight, you have a shotgun. That's not a sniper. When you see a fucker running from spawn and you're an A on the valley and you can fire one shot, you win. And that's not fair. Okay, so then we make it so that the sniper rifle is one-shotting in the head only. Then this weapon is suddenly underpowered, like it is currently in the game. You miss a tiny pixel that runs in Mach 3, and you don't even have time to attempt another shot before it realizes, holy shit, this is a sitting duck, let me fuck it up. Okay, so then what if we stay far away? Yeah, well, the same problem occurs here. Every rifle in the game is good enough to pretend it's a sniper. So if you're really, really far away, and you shoot once, you're about to get shot, most likely. Or, if you're far enough, you could just not even engage, you just hide. So I'm going to sugarcoat it, and it's impossible to balance this weapon. Very few games have the physical capability to balance this weapon right. Those games being Counter-Strike and Valorant. Since there is an economy system, there the player is faced with a big choice on whether they should buy this weapon so that they can have just one-shot people or not and save 5 rounds. In Call of Duty, you equip this weapon and then you one-shot people. No risk, high reward. So you can act like you have a shotgun, which is a problem. So how do you actually balance this without an economy system? Well, there are two possible solutions to this problem. One, make the hipfire worse, which it already is kind of bad, and it only gets better when you have a longer ranged scope, which it doesn't make sense for the accuracy to increase with the scope and bump the damage to one shot in the body. That way, it will be harder to act like you have a shotgun, but it does make it a lot more easier to hit one shots across the map, which is a big problem. Or the second option is to make it so that the reload time is very long, and that if you miss, you're heavily punished. But then again, you can also one-shot, which kind of works, but mostly makes the weapon unfun to play. There is, however, a third solution to this problem that doesn't fit the game at all, and that is to do the Team Fortress 2 approach. This is by far the best approach for a game where you don't need to do anything to spawn with a sniper rifle, but also feel relatively balanced. If you don't know, in Team Fortress 2, you hold down the sight and you charge the shot. So the longer you charge the shot, the more damage it does. You can do one shot at the head, but you can also charge your shots if you don't have good aim. But no other weapon in Polygon even remotely acts like this. So this is pretty goofy. It doesn't really fit in, but it is a great solution. Oh, and also the other two weapons, yeah, the VSS is just better. I mean, I'm running out of time, okay, I don't know what to say. Thank you for watching this video, and, why did I make this?